They're qualifying in season number 1 still in Indianapolis or at any of those locations in season 2. As we get down to the match here, taking a look at Harry C playing some Eldrazi ramp versus Rodney, someone we've seen before on Jeskai Prowess. Break down what's going on here. Doom Wake.
Well, before we do that, TBD, that's Time Spiral Block Draft, right? That's what we're doing.
I think so. I think yeah. Time
Just making sure.
That's quite the mouthful, but yeah, I think that works.
All right. So going down to the match here, we got Harry C on the right-hand side of your screen playing Eldrazi, which is a deck that we have seen a little bit today, not too much of. And then Rodney is kind of playing the Boogeyman. Is it Prowess? Well, actually, this isn't. Is it? This is Jeskai Prowess. Rodney deciding to splash white for the prismatic endings. I think now, I don't have a ton of experience in this matchup, but I do think that the Prowess player is pretty far ahead. A lot of the interaction, like specifically from Harry's side, is based on Kozilek's return, right? The 3-mana deal 2 to everything. And that card against Prowess creatures does not line up super well because Monastery Swift Spear and the Quarry Steel Cutter token have base 2 toughness. So if you have any spell, you can sort of protect your creatures against the front half of that Kozilek's return. Now, Rodney here doesn't really have that much of a fast start. We just, no creature on 1 and then a pending on the Talisman on 2. So, needs to maybe develop a little bit here.
Yeah, the pending finding a target early, I think really demonstrating some of the versatility of the Jeskai build is we're going to have a nice follow-up for some pressure.
Now we got threats.
Yeah, here you go. This is quite the follow-up for no pressure. Of course, they've got a plus Monastery Swift Spear. Now, this is an opportunity where a Kozilek's return could be really good if we have it. And I see a fetch and response. Harry had a great start here with the Devourer of Destiny. Only 2 copies, it looks like, in his main deck, but found one here, was able to get the little pregame action going. And then, of course, got the Ugin's Labyrinth value off of it as well. So really, getting the whole Buffalo, as we're going to grab a Commercial District tap for a little bit of cantrip action. Not really cantrip, just selection, I guess. On the Surveil, Boseiju Who Endures, Utopia Sprawl will hit the bin. There is one Boseiju Who Endures, but that's not the Earth we're using. So that's, I believe, a Utopia Sprawl. As a hit for 4 is going, or for 3 is going to connect.
Yeah, one thing I will mention about Harry's deck list is there are no Ugins here. Ugin was a card that we had talked about a little bit last round, powerful card from Tarkir Dragonstorm that has been showing up in some of these Eldrazi lists, but Harry deciding to forego that. 3 Sire of 7 Deaths, 2 Devourer of Destinies, that's kind of topping our curve off, along with 3 Emrakuls, and then kind of the usual suspects from there. So interesting to see no copies of that and more Sires. And I think a lot of that is a response to how well this Prowess deck is doing, because Sire, that one's pretty hard for the Prowess deck to get around. I mean, you can
get that one hard to get through,
but I mean, you got to get to 7, you got to get to 8 toughness somehow. So
when that card was spoiled, I kind of thought it was, it kind of read like a kind of a Timmy card, like something that's more for the casuals.
Yeah.
Oh, look at this 7 keywords with my 7 mana 7/7 up flavorful, and yeah, it's just actually just a modern caliber card. Even people maybe called it out as Tron replacing Wormcoil Engine, because you can just cast it off kind of the same amount of mana. It gets you more life, like that's a meaningful thing going on. But I mean, here having Reach, finally the big Eldrazi's have Reach. That's a big upgrade for this card. And then, of course, Lifelink mattering infinite as well. I think those are really the 2 big ones. Vigilance as well, so you can beat down and block. Like, there's a lot going on that really just makes this card rule the battlefield. And Prowess decks in general across history have been pretty weak against big Lifelinkers. This is really just kind of the best option available in that vein. So love 3 copies here.
8, 9,
Mutagenic
10,
growth.
11, 12.
Is that lethal?
I think this is too short, if my math is correct. So it's 3 triggers on Slick Shot. That's 6 plus the base power is 7. 2 from the Cutter and the Prowess is 9. 2 from the... Oh, so it's 11, sorry. So I believe this is going to put Harry down to 3.
Down to 3. And now we're in just lightning bolt range.
Or not.
If we do have something like a Sire.
Oh, I think I might have missed the additional Prowess trigger from the Lava Dart. So this is actually Harry down to 1.
Wow.
So not quite lethal, but I mean, pretty dang close.
Pretty dang close. And I think Rodney on no cards in hand. So, right. I mean, if Harry has something like maybe like a Writhing Chrysalis, like something in that vein, maybe we could assemble buying a turn. Yeah, we don't even have any of that. So an impressive amount of selection. We had the Devourer of Destiny pregame action. We had, some Commercial District. We had some options. We had some selection. and still couldn't really get anything going before the prowess deck slammed the door shut on the game. I don't know how much the prismatic ending really came up, and being able to exile that talisman obviously matters. But was that the difference between really being able to get something started or not? Unclear, because Rodney had to take a turn off as well. But Rodney crushed. As soon as we said a little bit of a slow start with the threats, and then Swift Spear, select
And
shot,
then it wasn't.
Still Cutter got. It was close till it wasn't. Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
So let's go ahead and move to the sideboards. Of course, we're going to start with Harry. Apologies once again for no deck lists. We don't have the technology in 2025 to make that happen. So we're just going to be reading the sideboards here. We got 3 copies of Force of Vigor for Harry. We also have 1 Kozilek's Return. We have 1 Soulless Jailer, 4 copies of Stone Rain, 4 copies of Trinisphere, and 2 copies of Unholy Heat to round out the sideboard. What do you want against the prowess strategy here?
Trinisphere. That card is good because prowess is casting a lot of spells, and if all their spells cost 3 mana, then their spells are worse. That's my expert advice. Yeah,
Incredible.
Trinisphere, very, very good in this matchup. I don't know if you want to go towards the 4th Kozilek's Return. Again, it is decent early on, but Rodney does have a lot of ways to break that up. If there's a Lava Dart in the graveyard, that can just stop the front half of it, and then a Mutagenic Growth just sort of counters it, might even counter the back half of it, at least on 1 creature. So you may want to go towards the 4th one, the Heats, to just stymie the pressure early, make sure you are able to put the Trinisphere into play before you die. And then as far as cards to take out, it doesn't really have a ton here. You can probably shave down on the Emrakuls. Maybe you can shave on something like Writhing Chrysalis, maybe trim a Stirrings here or there. But yeah, definitely wants those Trinispheres and the Heats for sure.
Knowing you're up against the prismatic ending version, does that affect how much you like either Talisman or Trinisphere in the sideboard games? Assuming those are going to stay in. Just kind of thinking through the talismans. Do we ever cut talismans in this matchup? I'm trying to figure out what prismatic endings are even about.
Well, the thing about cutting talisman is, I think if Rodney is prismatic ending a talisman instead of a Trinisphere, you're pretty happy with that. So just overloading his endings on targets, I think that's pretty good.
This is why you're the expert analysis, and I'm not. Well, let's go ahead and move on over here to Rodney's deck list. Take a look at the Jeskai Prowess sideboard. We have a copy of Blood Moon, 4 Consigned to Memory, 2 Magebane Lizard, 2 Path to Exile, 2 Spell Pierce, 2 Tormod's Crypt, 2 Wear Tear. How we boarding against the Eldrazi deck?
Blood Moon, Consigned to Memory, those ones will be slam dunks. Path to Exile is somewhat interesting, especially if you know that the Sire of 7 Deaths are there. You'll happily pay 7 life to get rid of that thing. But yeah, other than the Blood Moons and the Consigns, the rest of this, maybe you could consider something like Wear Tear if you expect the presence of Trinisphere, maybe in addition to the prismatic endings that are the 3 in the main. But yeah, and then the cards that Rodney is looking to cut, it's tough. If Rodney knew the Trinispheres were there, Rodney would probably keep in the pendings, but maybe doesn't know that they're there. Maybe can expect that. Potentially can shave on, maybe shave up Mutagenic Growth, maybe trim on Expressive Iteration if the games are going to go faster. But yeah, definitely wants the Consigns and the Blood Moon for sure.
That makes a lot of sense to me. And like I said, I do actually like cutting the expressive iteration quite a bit. This matchup not really about card advantage traditionally. It's kind of just about who can really execute their game plan first. Because really, once the snowball starts rolling, it's kind of hard to stop on both directions. Harry looking to be on a mulligan to 5 at this point. So Rodney found 7 cards that he likes, and Harry not quite yet. And I don't know so what's our most explosive turn? What are we looking for? Do we have just a turn 1 Trinisphere line anywhere?
No, we can do it on turn 2. Ideally, I was going to say Harry's ideal start is Lab, pitch a 7, and then Talisman, but on 5 cards, probably doesn't want to do something like that. So I would guess some of Harry's best starts involve Land Sprawl, and then turn 2 Land Trinisphere. So maybe kind of do that, plus maybe another land and a Malevolent Rumble or something like that.
This point, maybe just any kind of functional cards at all might be where we're at. Obviously, not looking for any kind of God draw or anything like that. And Boseiju Who Endures is going to be the land, no sprawl or anything like that. Sply Buff Canal and Beatdowns. Monastery Swift Spirit coming in tapped as it so often does. Back over to Harry as these players are off to the races. Ugin's Labyrinth, gonna pitch an Emrakul. That's 3 mana. What do we have with 3 mana? No, it's Kozilek's Command to go ahead and get rid of the Monastery Swift Spear.
looks like we're making a spawn token. I wonder if that signifies maybe something like another, like a temple and a Myco spawn in hand. That would be the best follow up because we would have 6 mana next turn. So
Okay.
I mean, mulling. I mean, Harry on a mull to 5 still has the potential for 6 mana on turn 3, and I love this from Rodney, just bolting the spawn token to make
Get that
sure
out of
that
here.
Harry can't get the 6 mana next turn. Yeah.
And to make sure that Rodney can attack. Here comes 2 points of damage. I want to make sure you're taking that damage. Get that out of here. Love it. Back over to Harry we go. Has access to 3 mana. Looks like 3 cards in hand. Uh, Second Labyrinth gets us to 4 mana. Nothing to
Is it
pitch.
Kozilek's Command? I can't see
Kozak's
what the
command
last card
number
is.
2. All right. And
Well,
this time we are going to go ahead and take a look at the library. Gonna do a little scry action and then
I
draw a
think the
card.
last.
Both
I think
the bottom.
I think the last card in him might be a Utopia Sprawl, which not great with Besaging.
Brutal. Yeah, not really the way we want to dial this up. And here's Express Federation. A great follow up for Rodney. You have the time. So awesome follow up here. Found a Bobble as a spell to cast. Card goes to hand. And one, of course, to bottom. This card has really kind of quieted down, I think, a little bit over the last few months. And now the prowess stack's really putting it way back on the map as, card that probably deserves another look, legality purposes. But, there's a lot of other problems with Corey Steelcutter and the like. Follow up Dragon's Rage Channeler. And I think
Expressive
we
is
still can play
real
this
nice.
bubble. Yeah, it is. It's his nice one is busted.
Yeah, I mean, especially with Cutter, because it just almost guarantees you get a double spell out of it. So, you could be hellbent with a Cutter and play top deck Expressive and could just go like Expressive creature, here's 2 threats immediately. And it pairs so well with Cutter.
That's literally what we saw Grayson do in order to kind of power through that Orzhov Flicker in just one round to go. As here is the Bobble, going to play and crack. And I think we do have Delirium. Yeah, Rodney, go ahead and separating that for us. We got Instant Sorcery Land Artifacts. That is a 3/3 Dragon's Rage Channeler. Quite delirious.
And
Found
I mean,
Windswept.
Harry's not doing too bad here, right? For a mulligan to 5, killed Rodney's first 2 threats, has access to 5 mana this turn. So potentially maybe getting something like a Stomping Ground. We can go for a Writhing Chrysalis. Never mind. That's a commercial district. So not sure what we're looking here. We're fetching main phase, though. So at least I think we're in the main phase.
Yeah, I think we are too. I think we played the fetch and cracked it right away. So we're going to go ahead and surveil right now. Can't get a great look. Maybe a Stirrings? Looks like a spell. I think like you said, we still got that Utopia Sprawl. So I think we want to put the Utopia
That's
Sprawl
why
on
we're
the commercial
fetching main
district
phase.
right now.
Yep.
Right. So that's going to go ahead and enter on our commercial district, power up our mana a little bit more. So that puts us to 2, 4, 5, 6 mana naturally. Not quite at Sire territory yet, but Harry had a good amount of life. We're still at 16. Those removal spells like you called out. I mean, Harry really stepped into his role as kind of the control deck in this kind of matchup here. The Sprawl, of course, does name red. So we're going to have a second red. I don't know if that matters. Does anything cost 2 red?
No, but potentially setting up for a turn. Maybe he wants to go like double return or something. I think that's the only red card. Let me go back here.
We got
Chrysalis
some
plus return.
Stone Rains, I guess. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
We got a few red cards with some single pips. Another iteration is the follow-up. We're gonna get to Surveil first. To the bin goes Sacred Foundry. Let's get a look at 3 cards.
I want to
Found
take a look at
Bobble.
Rodney's.
Slam that one to exile.
Okay, 2 Sacred Foundry. I know that I've seen some of these Jeskai versions get a little greedy and play 1 Foundry, and I was wondering if maybe we're out of access to white mana, but there is 2 in Rodney's list. So
I have to imagine Rodney maybe give a little bit more thought than just slam it right in the graveyard. I know maybe you just don't have the white cards in your deck anymore. Maybe nothing matters. And to the bin goes Show Off. That's interesting to me.
Very surprising, especially on 3. Well, maybe Rodney figures that we just don't have enough mana. Like if we don't have a land drop this turn, that's 2 of your mana next turn, and maybe just wants to like sort of try to close the gap a little bit before then because it's just a little too slow. I mean, you could plot it to get around something like K return. And
here we go. We're picking up the Emrakul. Whoa. 3 types in the bin. That is a 10 mana card. All right.
Interesting. Why did we do that?
Found a forest.
So this is 6.
Yeah,
I think there might be a Myco spawn in hand.
Yeah, so this is Myco spawn, and we're going to kick. And I saw a consign in Rodney's hand, and with no second mana up, we kind of need to make a decision. We don't get to get the whole thing here, right?
You get 1 of 3. Choose wisely.
Yeah.
I think, given that Harry picked up the Emrakul last turn, I think you just counter the ramp spell.
I think that would be my guess as well. This thing can't block your Dragon's Rage Channeler. You don't care that much about your lands. You care a lot about your opponent's lands. So I think taking the 1 mana Stone Rain makes a lot of sense. And so that is what we're going to do.
Yeah, you don't really care about the
And
3/3.
yeah, the 3/3 is not racing your Dragon's Rage Channeler backed up by, permission and bolts and what have you. So that doesn't matter on its own.
Notably, Rodney did miss a land drop last turn, so that land getting blown up is pretty relevant, especially if he's trying to, set up a big turn here. And Channeler, powerful card, but doesn't have prowess. It doesn't scale as well as like the Swiss Spears when you have, a double Lava Dart turn or something like that.
And I see a Corey Steelcutter in hand as well. We've already played a Bobble this turn, so we're really just not looking to increase the clock. This makes the Slick Shot kind of graveyard bin look even a little stranger to me as this game has kind of progressed. Like, obviously, we want to hold up mana, and that makes a lot of sense. We did find a land off of our iteration, but it really feels like we wanted at least one more piece to turn up the heat.
So I
on
think
the clock.
I think the reason that Rodney did not fire off the cutter this turn is because we have a copy of Consigned to Memory. So
Yeah.
he wants to hold up the Consign this turn. If he goes cutter plus spell, can't cantrip into the Consign because he didn't have a land there. So I guess that kind of makes sense. But yeah, just getting a little bit more pressure. Because now, so let's look type wise. We have creature, sorcery, land, kindred, instant. That's 5. And we
It
have
rumbles a
1, 2, 3,
sorcery,
4.
so that's one more.
Oh yeah, the rumble is counted. So creature, sorcery, land, kindred, instance. That's 5 total, including sorcery. We have access to 5 mana. So even if we take a soul land here, we only have 7. That's 1 short.
But I don't think we're gonna die. I mean, we're at 10 life. How likely we'd actually die next turn? Could take another spawn here. I mean, yeah, I do say that. There's a lot of ways we do die, but the question is how likely is it given that we've played so many turns so far and we haven't died? Not clear. We are going to go ahead and go for the Myco spawn instead. Going to bring another Bozo with it. So we
Rodney
have
doing
Bozo.
the counting as well.
Yeah, I mean, Rodney knows about this Emrakul. It was pretty face up when it was picked. Here comes just a non-kicked Myco spawn. So now we have a consign again. Do we care about the 3/3?
Well, I don't think we care about the 3/3. I think we care about the Bajuka Bog that the Myco spawn's going to go grab because that would turn off the channeler. So I think if Rodney has the consign, he wants to fire it off on the trigger, to keep the channeler, make sure the channeler stays a 3/3, I think.
And given that a soul land wasn't grabbed, this also cuts off Emrakul next turn, right? We have 6, 7. We're 1 short with 5 types.
So 5 types, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, we're still 1 short.
Okay, so it does it all. It keeps your channeler in the air, and it also keeps Emrakul from happening. But now the Corey Steelcutter has a lot of 3/3 blockers in front of it. Looks a lot weaker now than it maybe would have looked in other turns. Tap Spirebluff Canal, not the move. Do have a Lava Dart that can pick off this spawn. That's actually huge. And we get a Surveil from Dragon's Rage Channeler as well. I think we might have missed. And here's a Beatdowns.
I think we already topped from casting the cutter. I'm pretty sure Rodney topped the card previously, so I think he knows what.
Okay, so we know what it is. All right. Okay. And so now we're going to. I think we blocked, and we're going to Mutagenic to punch through. 3, 4 points come through this turn, and we get to keep the token.
Yeah, and he's going to leave the Lava Dart in the graveyard for next turn. Had the option to sacrifice the land to the Lava Dart before playing the Spirebluff Canal, so the canal would have entered on tap, maybe like bluff a consign or something. But wants to save the Lava Dart for next turn.
I think it makes a fair bit of sense, especially given that the card on top is probably like a show off or something.
Okay,
and
wait.
Back over to Rod.
Oh, we played the land, but we were 1 mana short because the spawn died. Right.
Yeah, we killed the spawn with the dart.
Yep.
Roddy's done a great job through this match just picking off those spawns because they're so critical to the mana here. It is a show off in hand with the dart as well. That's going to be lethal. And Rodney on the Jeskai Prowess deck going to get it done versus Eldrazi Ramp. Really, I mean, a close game given the circumstances. Rodney kept a 7. Harry, of course, on mold of 5, put up a great fight with those Kozilek's commands, but Rodney really sniffed it out, was able to pick off those very important Eldrazi spawns that really kind of represented the like 1 mana that Harry really needed throughout the game in order to get going. And the couple consigns, some sideboard cards, all the mix that you're used to seeing, was able to get it done. And an impressive display once again. I can't stop being impressed by these prowess decks. They're so strong. They beat basically every kind of hate that we've seen thrown at them. And yeah, I don't know. I think we're going to be seeing a lot of them in our top 8 today. And we're going to have to see what that looks like as Modern progresses as time goes on.
Yeah, and Harry was what, 1 mana short on at least back-to-back turns, maybe even a third turn to cast that Emrakul. So yeah, Rodney, just like you mentioned, played, just counted the cards in graveyard, made sure that he was able to cut him off mana. And going back to that game 1 too, the prismatic ending on the talisman, that was a huge play as well. Making sure that he was able to just keep him off mana and able to go get enough pressure.
Absolutely. So we're going to get a quick word, see if we have our backup feature or if we're getting an interview or something, but we're going somewhere else. Okay, it looks like we're going to be trying to dial up an interview with Rodney, of course. I'm actually quite interested to hear a little bit more about the Jeskai motivation. I don't know if that's something you could speak to, but Prismatic Ending is a card that I've seen main decks from. Is it decks through like kind of the lifetime of its existence in Modern, right? This is a big problem solver, but usually is there for a very specific range of cards, either main deck prison pieces that people are playing or anything of that nature. Reaching for it this early in the format where it seems like a lot of people are reaching for it's a very intentional decision. Are you aware of why we're doing the Prismatic Ending? What the real big driver for that decision is? Oh, Rodney's going to tell me. Never mind. Don't tell me.
Well,
I don't want to spoil. Rodney, congratulations. Awesome performance, dominant performance.
Yeah, no,
and I don't know if you got to hear a little bit about my ramblings about Prismatic Ending, but talk to me just about your process testing for this tournament, your decision to play Jeskai Prowess, even over something like Is It Prowess, and where that brought you to this moment.
Well, I'm sorry to disappoint you. I didn't do any testing. I borrowed the deck.
Incredible.
Yeah, I was handed a deck. I made no deck building decisions. I do like Prismatic Ending. It's just like a super flexible card. Like you're an expressive iteration deck. You see a lot of cards over a long game, and you just want to be able to have those kind of flexible answers. And like I don't want to play Violent Urges instead, which I think is the replacement card.
I've seen Violent Urges in a few other decks as well. Yeah, that card doesn't look like the strongest thing in the universe to me, especially something like Prismatic Ending. And of course, you get like Wear Tears and some other options as well. And obviously,
two Wear Tears, 2 paths. I think I've cast both of those cards today. They've both been great.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So talk to me, was there a decision point then at all between like Energy or Prowess? Because that seems like the two big contenders in the format right now. Like if you're talking about best decks.
I wanted to play the new card. Like Core Steel Cutter has felt really cool. It's if you ever have 2, it's like absolutely crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing that I wanted to bring up was the Boros matchup. How many times have you played against Boros today?
I think twice. It was my one loss. They just had Fledge, had removal for my stuff.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Sure. I don't know if that's a good matchup, a bad matchup. I think that the format is still kind of developing. It doesn't seem good. Yeah, it makes sense. Fledge seems like a problem.
Yeah. I mean, it is only one blocker. Like, if you have 2 Steel Cutters, you can get in for like 3 there. You can, they have to tap out for it probably, so you can push a Slick Shot turn to just get like 7 damage in the air.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I'm just very invested in how this is going to shake out, given that Corey Steelcutter, it's a powerful card. It seems like a targetable card, and it seems like people knew about this deck. Like obviously you knew about the deck. Lots of people showed up with it, and people showed up theoretically to beat it. And from the analysis, looks like they haven't done a good job, and you've done a great job dismantling all kinds of hate throughout the day, like you said with your various tools. But as someone, I've watched you play Magic for quite a long time. You're a very talented Magic player that typically when I see whatever you're playing, that is what is considered the best deck. You are someone that I think typically picks up the best deck and are very successful with those kinds of things.
It's a compliment.
Talk to me about it. Is it just the best deck? Is it just unbeatable? Is it a problem specifically is where I'm going with this?
I don't think it's a problem. I don't really think anything's a problem. I'm very excited to see how Peter's deck develops. I saw him draw 5 cards with an Narset in one turn today. And the deck just looks super fun. It plays all the busted cards that Breach played. I'm I'm excited to see him win the tournament.
Excited to see when the tournament. Well, yes, he may have to get through you to get there, so I'm looking forward to that. That's going to be a sweet matchup to commentate there, because you might be able to see it in action firsthand, and we'll see. We'll see who is better. But Rodney, congratulations! I very much look forward to watching you play a little bit more Magic throughout the rest of the weekend. Not too much now, but a little bit more Magic. Good luck in the rest of your events, and I'm sure we'll see more of you later on. Awesome stuff. I mean, Rodney's such a nice person. I really enjoy watching Rodney play, and it helps that he's really good. It's really good. So we'll be seeing more of him for sure, and we'll be seeing a lot more of the prowess stack, I'm sure, as well. And I actually agree with Rodney's assessment. I really want to see more about the Peter's deck, and I commented that at the time. But we're gonna have to wait to do that, as we are still in round number 7 of our modern 10K showdown. But what we do have, if you are fiending for more prowess, which I know the entire chat is, everybody loves prowess and all of the impact it has had. Here is our time-shifted match. We got Connor Clark on your left. We got Cliff Boerty on your right, with the exact matchup we were just talking to Rodney about, where he said it was not very good. The Boros Energy versus Jeskai Prowess, but it looks like Connor on the play. Doom, you seem like you were teasing at something. You think this matchup's bad?
Well, so we are going back to that conversation we were having before the interview that we switched over to Rodney. We were discussing why we think the Jeskai or the Izadek is splashing for prismatic ending. I think this matchup is the reason why. It's very, very difficult to get Flage off the battlefield. And the way that this matchup usually plays out, because I've played, this is like one of the matchups I've played a lot from both sides. The way this matchup usually plays out is, Izzet player has a creature and a creature, Boros player has a kill spell and a kill spell, and you kind of play this little bit of a longer game. But the fact that Flage not only plays to the battlefield, but also gains you a little bit of life and stabilizes, buys you time to get to the second half of Flage, it's very, very difficult to beat Flage in the battlefield. So having a way to exile that with Prismatic Ending, I think, is the main draw to splashing white in the Izzet deck.
Well, it makes a lot of sense, as Connor is going to start things off with a Dragon's Rage Channeler, does a little bit of cantripping with the Mishra's Bauble, and actually graveyards a Prismatic Ending. So either maybe an extra or just not time for it quite yet is the Prismatic Ending. Getting very close to Delirium already as well. No instant static prison sorcery, going to come down. Shut it all down.
Sorcery, artifact, land. And yeah, the other thing here is Connor not only has the 4 prismatic endings in the main deck, but we also have a copy of Flage in the main deck to sort of like, I guess, go toe-to-toe, although Boros is certainly a better Flage deck than the Prowess deck is, I would guess. And then once we get to the sideboard, 2 Chain of the Rocks, where Rodney had 2 paths, Connor has 2 chains. I think it's close. I think I'd prefer Path to Exile, just because the instant speed, sometimes you actually want to exile the Flage with, like, when they cast it for the first time, just so it never hits the graveyard. It doesn't have the opportunity to get flashback.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that seems viable. I guess the Chain to the Rocks argument is maybe just like Dragon's Rage Channeler Delirium, like enchantment kind of is a thing that matters. But I mean, of course, then you could blow it up. Static Prison can answer it, and that would just be kind of a disaster. So, no, I mean, I definitely see the argument, and Path to Exile makes a lot of sense to me. But don't have that to work with, and may not have a second. We do have a second land. I see a Wooded Foothills, but we may have just found that. I think Connor might have just missed a land drop there. Despite all the cantrips, we went through Preordain and another Mishra's Bauble.
Didn't find
the second bauble. Yeah, we saw a ton of cards. Couldn't find a second land, and that could just be that's a big problem, right? Like we're on the play. You really want to be able to push the advantage and kind of force Cliff to be answering things. And now Cliff gets a turn off to develop, and we'll see exactly what he will do to capitalize on that. Going to start with the Guide of Souls. Going to follow up with an Oslet Pride. This is a great setup turn. Got an energy and gained a life, which means, of course, a cat token's coming, which means another energy and another life. And
I mean, maybe this game looks a little bit different if Connor has a creature in play. Like, for example, if the Channeler didn't die, Connor is attacking for 3, has something in play while spinning the wheels and missing these land drops. I believe another Channeler was picked up here. I don't even know if Connor has another cantrip in hand, so I don't even know if he can dig to find a second land here. I think the hand's just maybe some reactive cards, a Channeler, and then a couple 2-drops, which is kind of tough.
Yeah, that is just not really the mix you're looking for. Yeah, it looks like very creature heavy is the hand, which, I mean, is kind of what you need, because you need to get something going.
Yeah, did find a Foothills.
Yeah, we have the foothills. Drew that off the bobble. Going to pay for the static prison once again.
One thing I will
So
point out about Connor's deck list: Soul Scar Mage 4 copies, Slick Shot Show Off 0 copies. So he did go ahead and make that swap, which I think is interesting. And I think that the Soul Scar Mages maybe give you a little bit of a slight advantage in the prowess mirror. I think is the main reason for that.
I mean, just having more one drops is always quite nice. Makes your expressive iterations organically better and things of that nature. Really makes you a much more committed prowess deck versus just kind of like this weird, like, is it tempo thing, in my opinion. But yeah, having access to none in the 75 is quite an interesting, obviously very direct choice. As the bombardment is going to be the follow-up. Great one when you have the Oslet Pride running. You know, you're able to get a token every turn without attacking thanks to the Guided Souls. You're going to be able to cash those in for damage. And then, of course, we're building up to the old Ascend, getting the city's blessing. So there's, there's just quite a bit of a problem building up on the other side of the table for Connor. And you mentioned this matchup maybe a little bit hard in game one. I think it gets a lot harder if you miss your second land drop, which just kind of unfortunate. You know, I think you do keep a lot of one landers, especially if you have like Dragon's Rage Chandler plus Bobble to try to find a land, and then Preordain plus another Bobble to find a land on the next turn, and aren't able to make that happen. But we do have a Lightning Bolt in response to go ahead and pick off the Guide of Souls. So that's one thing that can't be sacrificed for a damage. And now, if Cliff wants to get this Soul Scar off the battlefield, it's going to take his entire board. Well, it has prowess right now, so you have to wait till the next turn. But
yeah, something like a Lava Dart here, maybe help clean up the Ocelot Pride, get a little bit of stuff going. But yeah, wants to make sure that Cliff doesn't have a constant source of energy production to be able to pay for that static prison. You know, if Cliff does eventually run out of energy, maybe you get back the Channeler, maybe you have a second threat, can kind of, transition from there. But for now, it's just if you leave the Boros deck with an uncontested threat, which Connor essentially had to take a turn off to cast a cantrip and still missed anyways. That's where it starts to snowball out of control, because these Boros creatures, they can take over the game pretty quickly.
You're telling me they're pretty good. They're strong cards.
They're not bad.
I see a Flasion hand shuffling around. So if the static prison ends up going to the yard, just not being paid for, or we sacrifice the Osset Pride of the Goblin Bombardment based on a removal spell or whatever, the graveyard's going to get full very, very quickly. And this Flage may start to be a real player. And with one of the prismatic endings already in the graveyard, we may not have access to one off the jump. And then, like you said, things might start to snowball out of control from there. So we've already managed to assemble, it looks like, land 4 and the Flage. We're at a very healthy life total of 18. And this expressive iteration has some work to do. Here comes a dart.
One interesting thing I want to point out about Connor's deck list, in basically every other prowess deck list we've seen has had 4 copies of Mutagenic Growth. Connor is not playing that card. And that makes the Flages even more backbreaking, because normally if, a Flage goes to target a prowess creature, you Mutagenic to save it. Connor can't do that. Now, it's not necessarily that Cliff knows that Connor can't do that. So, he's going to go for the Flage anyways. But right. Connor has less ways to fight against the Flage than some of the other prowess decks would have, which makes it even worse.
Well, yeah, it makes it worse for you, but maybe the mutagenics, as far as that interaction, might just be treading water. Like Connor saying, I'm not even going to try to mess with that. I'm just going to try to, get him dead with my cheaper creatures and not have to worry about Flage as much. Not really clear. I like the look. I think mutagenic growth in general tends to lean towards overextension when it comes to deck building. We're doing too much. This is, you don't really, maybe in small doses or for surgical purposes, but like, in general, outside of like Infect trying to kill you in turn 2 or something crazy like that, like it just seems like a lot to me. Like you never really mutagenicing through like an unholy heat, right? It's like what are we talking?
Yeah, it does get. I will say it does get a little bit better if you are playing the Violent Urge, the double strike card. So
right, that's true too. Exactly, like you're kind of assembling this combo thing, whereas this is more of the traditional prowess builds, I'd say, that are less looking to like, I guess, combo kill you with spells like that, more just looking to tread water and just kind of organically cantrip their way to victory. As right. Flage is going to pick off the Soul Scar Mage. Just a cat left over for Cliff. Not really, like you said, this is what you called out. A lot of back and forth, removal spell on both ends. Kind of we're at parity here in turn 3, turn 4 territory. And that's really where Flage just starts to look primed to take over. And with 4 cards in yard, Flage in yard, that looks like the script. That looks like what's looking to happen. And the Arena Glory is going to make it even more devastating as Ragavan joins the mix.
Basically, this matchup is just everybody is trading cards until the Boros player casts Flage, and then we're no longer trading cards. The game's over. So
it's a trading card game.
And that's Well, it is a trading card. Is it a trading card game or a collectible card game? Who knows?
I don't even know what a collectible card game means. What I can tell you is that I think Connor just conceded. It's
Yeah, he's off
just
it.
all right. I can read
Yeah.
Flage. I've seen this before. We've been through this. No sense. You don't have to cook me. You got your chef's hat on. I'm not going to let you put me in the frying pan. We're just going to move along with things. So Connor did end up winning game 2. So hate to spoil it for you. You'd love to see the prowess deck, maybe winning, maybe not, whoever you want to root for. But what I can tell you is that we're going to go ahead and jump into game 3. I believe this is going to be live, as Connor, as I mentioned, did win game number 2. So like I said, I'm going to jump right into that. I do want to talk very, very briefly about sideboards before we do. Here, as we are going to jump in live here. I think might just be time shifted, but either way, we are jumping in. The sideboard for the energy deck. You mentioned the 2 Chain of the Rocks. You also have 4 Consign, a Deflecting Palm, an Emrakul, 2 Pyroclasms, 3 Soul Guide Lanterns, 2 Wear Tears. What do you typically board in this matchup?
Chain to the Rocks. I think that's part of the reason why you want to splash white. Gives you a little bit more exile against Flage. Pyroclasm, really good at cleaning up a bunch of cat tokens and Johnnies and all that stuff. You could maybe go to a couple Soul Guide Lanterns just for Flage, but I don't know if that's too narrow. Other than that, I think that's pretty much it.
And then a little spoiler already here from Cliff's side, as you can see on screen. But over to Cliff,
I think he's boarding in Deafening Silence.
Yeah, I would say so too. We got a Blood Moon, a Purge, 2 Clarion Conqueror, 2 Deafening Silence, 1 Ghost Vacuum, 4 Molten Rain, 2 Showdown of the Skull, 2 Wear Tear. So obviously we want the Deafening Silence, according to Cliff. Anything else?
Celestial Purge, potentially to take care of Corey Steelcutter. Could see something
Okay.
like that. And I think that's it. Like Wear Tear. I guess Wear Tear depends on how many answers you want to the cutters, because you already have the 2 static prisons in the main deck. So you have the potential to go up to 5. That might be too many.
Okay. I mean, it makes sense. You wouldn't want to board a lot, right? Like this is supposedly a decent matchup for the energy deck, at least. It seems like it may still be up in the air about how much being Jeskai impacts things or not. Certainly gives you an answer to Deafening Silence, right? We're trying to find reasons for Prismatic Ending. Deafening Silence, a great one. 1 mana answer to Deafening Silence, a great spot to be. And otherwise, the Izzet decks really can only like bounce it or whatever. Not that good, as we do see the same start that we saw from game number 1 from Connor, the Dragon's Reach Channeler plus Bobble action, something we've been seeing in Magic for a long time.
And one thing, worth pointing out here, Cliff's on 5 cards. Cliff only has 3 cards in the hand here. So mulliganed, it appears, maybe very aggressively towards that silence, or, could have just had a couple of bad hands. But yeah, this is one of the ways that prowess can maybe sort of quote unquote steal a game against Boros is, they have maybe a bit of a weaker draw, mulligan a bunch. And you mentioned Connor does have the prismatic endings for the deafening silences. I mean, if your name is Grayson Nemitz, you don't even need to remove that card from the battlefield.
Yeah, we saw it just not even matter that much. Yeah.
Yep.
And we'll see if that does manifest for Connor. I think Connor with Lava Darts and such maybe wants it a little bit more. And we did see in Cliff's hand, I got a little spy. You were right about the Celestial Purge. That one in hand for Cliff here, alongside a Flage and maybe another land. So very reactive. Clearly planning to just answer threats. But Connor with a full grip looks like he's got a good mix. Lands, spells, additional threats. Really is going to be able to kind of engage at his own rate.
Yeah, ideally for Connor, he would have something like fetch for a white source, play a second Swift Spear, prismatic ending the deafening sounds. I couldn't quite get a good look and see if there was a prismatic ending. I did see a Swift Spear though. So
Yeah,
at the very minimum, he can go, Swift Spear into play a 1 non-creature spell, maybe a cantrip, hit for 4. Cliff has the decision if he wants to use hit for 5. Cliff has the decision if he wants to use the Celestial Purge on the Channeler. It's actually a little interesting to see Cliff hold the Celestial Purge for the cutter, given the silence in play, but maybe he's still a little bit worried about it. Interesting.
I mean, it's an instant, right? You just do it whenever. Do it next turn, whatever. We'll figure it out.
Yeah. I guess worst case scenario, because Connor can't trigger the cutter this turn,
Yeah, because you can't go cutter plus Bobble on turn 2, so there's really no way to line that up. Need a Memnite to make that happen.
Talk to me. Affinity?
Yeah. Hey, dude, cutter affinity could be kind of real. I'm sure people have looked at it. I'm not in the trenches exploring this stuff, but it seems good to me. I don't know. Follow up. It's just a lava darts. That's probably going upstairs. That will give a surveil trigger and a prowess trigger, and I think also enables delirium. So we're looking at an
Yep.
attack for 5 here on turn 2. That's pretty good.
Yeah,
A lot of
attack for
damage.
5. Attack for 5 on turn 2 through the turn 1 deafening sounds. And this is exactly what we saw. This is the last time we saw Grayson play against Silence. It was just able to go creature plus spell on 2, creature plus spell on 3, and just was still able to double spell every turn through the Silence. So it's a good card, but it doesn't get you all of the way there.
Yeah, I mean, it being 1 mana obviously is the key, but it's just clearly been not enough. There's plenty of ways that these prowess decks in any configuration, because this looks completely different, really, from Grayson Nemeth's deck, but it's kind of doing the same thing still. Okay, I'll play 1 creature, 1 spell. Fine with me. Like, Flurry only asked me to play 2 spells anyway, and like 1 prowess trigger is kind of fine, and like whatever. Like, we're chilling. And that really, I mean, Deafening Silence looks like it solves part of the problem. You got to have a good follow up. And we're going to go ahead and Flage the follow up. That's a pretty good follow up overall. And part
Okay.
effect, Soul God Lantern, I think.
Yep, the lanterns did come in, at least in some numbers. So that's pretty good at getting rid of Flage.
Very timely. Yeah, very
Yes.
timely here. As that's really
Especially
all Cliff had going on.
Yeah, the arena in play too. Bombardment on an empty board. I think Cliff's last card might be a kill spell.
I think so. Kill spell or land, but I mean, either way, I mean, Connor has like 100 cards in hand, and Cliff has not 100 cards. So this is already looking kind of bad for Cliff.
Connor did sacrifice the lantern there for a card. I think I like that because you kind of got your value on the way out, right? With the Flage, that's the one you care about. Maybe you like get a little bit punished down the road if Connor has if Cliff has a second Flage. But yeah, and
I mean, he has
no
another one in
second
hand,
spell
I
here
think.
from the
I
cutter.
think his hand is all non-creature spells. I think it's like darts and Soul God Lanterns and all that stuff. That's why we didn't trigger this steel cutter here.
Gotcha.
And it looks
Yeah,
like
really-
Cliff drew a land. Just go. Have to imagine we're going to find a surveil land here, trying to find a creature to trigger the steel cutter.
I'm indifferent on the surveil land and the prowess deck because every time if it's in your opening hand, it's so bad. But if you play fetch lands, you kind of have to play the surveil
Yeah,
land.
that
so
looks
it's
great.
like-
One is
feels like a
so close to
unnecessary
free.
evil.
Come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
Well, you say
we
one's
have
close
two.
to free. I think Connor has 2.
Yeah, he has 2 elegant parlors. No, that's Cliff. Sorry,
No,
sorry,
one
sorry.
parlor, one falls.
1 parlor, 1 falls. Yeah, because I saw him actually look at his hand to decide which one to grab. He went for Thundering Falls at first, decided instead to go for the elegant parlor. Yeah, take that, Doom. 2.
Yeah.
I
All
love
right,
it.
you got me.
We're going to go ahead and wear away the Corey Steel Cutter. So that one's going to hit the bin. And an Expressive Iteration to pick up.
It's not bad if we can find a 1-mana creature to cast off of it. And the nice thing about spots like this is, even if Connor doesn't find a land, because Connor is playing Soulscar over Slickshot Show Off, he has more 1-mana creatures he can hit off of this Expressive Iteration.
Yeah, this is exactly the spot, right? This is literally the spot where your expressive iterations are better because you don't play show-offs. And so we'll see if that manifests. I mean, you do need to hit one of those 1-mana creatures. Instead, found a land, again, represents the second surveil land. So even if you still have nothing, I mean, that's some value. And more importantly, I mean, this is just more card advantage. Like, Cliff is still at no cards in hand to Connor's like 6. So this really, even if we are still missing some pieces, we're missing some pressure, we have 100 answers to the first threat that Cliff is going to present. So really, Cliff's removal is good, but his threats just kind of don't work. You really have to start to slog through Connor's removal spells, which just gives Connor so much time to finally find a threat. And that really does spell a lot of trouble for Cliff, even though he is getting a little bit more time than you'd expect.
Yeah, you saw the smile on Cliff's face there. If he had surveilled the Flage there, we'd probably be done here. But yeah, and that is something that Connor has to recognize. I mean, not that he can do anything about it, but if Cliff ever does surveil a Flage into the graveyard from a spot like this, game's over immediately because the Arena of Glory that is that is 12 damage. And there's nothing Connor can do about that. But yeah, the surveillance
Well, there is, right? He has a soul lantern in play. Just put the lantern in play.
Oh, in his hand, yeah. Well, yeah, I guess that's true. If you decided to take like sort of quote unquote take a turn off to put the lantern to play, if you are afraid of that, I guess you don't have to here.
It is a little aggressive, I'd say. I mean, we've been through one. He has like 1 surveil at it. Like, come on,
right?
Just don't go on. Don't luck sack me now. Come on.
No, I know.
Connor looking to choose his poison on how he wants to blow this Guide of Souls up. I think also thinking on the surveil still. Yeah, we have 2 lanterns in. We brought all 3 in, and we've drawn them all.
Ooh, that's a lot. Lantern's pretty good. Not as good, against the Deafening Silence. So hand right now, I don't know if he picked up a creature. I think it might be Dark Dart, bolt, lantern.
Yeah, I like getting one of these lanterns in play. We can bolt on Cliff's turn, and we're gonna take one, whatever. That's fine. Let's just go ahead and let's get our insurance policy in play here.
Connor wishing he had a third surveillance at this point.
I think so. Both players, I think, wishing they had a third surveillance at this point.
Oh, okay. This is very interesting. Now, the timing on this, I don't know if Connor knows this. He has to sack the lantern now if he wants. If that's his plan.
because Cliff will have priority.
If
You're right. We need to do it right now in
here,
response to the surveil trigger right here.
This is the decision now. Connor could say, "Okay, well, if I get sacked, I get
So
sacked
aggressive
because I want to cycle." Let's see.
I would like to see a bolt in response and then get it all out from there. We missed. It's a fetch land. Boo! Cliff playing smart, giving himself outs, did not find it. Yeah, I really think Connor had a nice line there of just bolt. Go ahead and bolt now. Yeah, we could have bolted then, and then go ahead and blow up the graveyard in response to that surveil. And that really, I think that puts close to the door on everything. Like, Connor will find a threat eventually, and then Cliff just has nothing going. Like Ajani, is that something that's an out? Because you have the bombardment. Yeah,
that could be something.
That's a something.
And given that Connor used the bolt, Connor's hand, I think, is all darts, which means you can't even double dart the Ajani with the trigger on the stack because of the silence.
Right. Yeah, would like to see a prismatic ending here, I'm sure.
I think with the third lantern in hand, given that you didn't sack the lantern now, you just draw a card.
Yeah, if you're not doing it there, you better be doing it now. I love it. I love it. The Soul God Lanterns have looked very powerful and flexible. We found a Dragon's Rage channeler. Okay.
I'm very curious as to if the prismatic ending stated. I have to assume they did, but Connor has seen a lot of cards and we haven't found a pending yet, so.
Also, that's just a creature. We didn't actually deploy the other lantern there. Could have deployed something to get some surveil going. Yeah, I mean, at that point, the surveil looks attractive to me. Definitely a delirious Dragon's Rage channeler.
Yeah, and you're probably okay. Well, now pending's not good.
Yeah, you can hit the bombardment, I guess. That's like something. Yeah. All right, gonna go ahead and dart on end step, get some surveils going, and
the funny damage, thing. I guess. The interesting thing here for Connor is that, assuming that there is assuming that the knowledge is there, most Boros decks only play 2 surveil lands. So now that Cliff has gone through, both parlors in play, Connor usually won't have to worry about Cliff saying, okay, well, if I top deck a fetch land, surveil, flage into the graveyard. So that line is, for the most part, out of the equation.
Well, there's pending. Gonna hit the bombardment. Yeah, which deploying that second silence means it's going to go there instead of towards the silence. Beatdowns for 3. And the Lava Dart actually does make this a fashion.
It's the prismatic ending bug.
Man, I could never play this Boros Energy deck. This is tough. And just a bombardment follow-up. Again, this is kind of what we expected to happen. Like, nothing was really happening, but Klarna's going to find something eventually, and he sure did. Lava Dart going to give another surveil. A land goes to the graveyard. 1 more point, makes it a 3-turn clock with the Dragon's Rage Channelers. And now we're counting up the darts with 3 darts in yard.
Good grief. 3 in the yard. So we can go attack.
That takes a turn
attack
off.
to 3. They go to 6. Dart on main phase to 5. Dart on Cliff's turn to 4. Dart on Connor's turn. So yeah, it's 2 turns.
And there's a bolt. Is that just everything?
Ooh. Well, we can't cast it all.
We can't do it all now, but can we do it all before Cliff can do anything?
I think we want to cast something. Cliff's going to get 1 action. Yeah, I think you just dart now, probably.
Yeah, I want to cast something. Question is what?
Because in case Cliff draws a kill spell, I think you want to get one of these spells out.
Yeah, you want to get the spells going. So bolt. If he draws Flage, do you feel goofy for bolting instead of Soul Guide Lanterning?
But we still have a lantern left over, right?
Yeah, we have 1 more in hand.
Okay. That's a good point.
I think Flage is the disaster case. And we just.
But I guess Cliff doesn't have enough mana to cast the Flage and escape it in the same turn. So
there we go.
Maybe Connor is saying, okay, well, if Cliff draws Flage, I can say, take my licks, the Channeler dies, untap, play the Lantern, get the graveyard, and then kind of go from there.
This bolt's lethal. I mean, with the Dragon's Rage Channeler still in play, he's going to say, all right, bolt you. We got a surveil going. We did go ahead and exchange the life totals. We kept the card on top. Again, I think we knew what it is. It's an iteration. Beatdowns for 3. That's lethal. Nope, 3 been charmed to hit the yard to take graveyard. 1. All right, we'll just dart you in response. Come on now. And Cliff is going to be felled to the Jeskai Prowess deck. Another prowess at 6-1. Connor Clark able to defeat Cliff on a low mulligan there in game number 3 and reverse sweep that match. An impressive display from these Jeskai prowess decks. I like it a lot. And Prismatic Ending kind of came up. I mean, really, the Soul God Lanterns were kind of the key there. Being able to shut down really his entire plan on the mulligan with the whole Flage action, and kind of played out according to what you expected.
Yeah, I mean, I think Cliff mulligan to 5 that game, and mulligan to 5 had the Deafening Silence, just didn't really have enough stuff to get onto the battlefield, and wasn't able to produce a threat. The Flay just got hit by the Lanterns, and, eventually the Prowess deck with all the selection and card advantage with Expressive will find enough burn to close out the game.
And that's exactly what happened. The script is what really played out the way you expected. And I think is a concerning metric, seeing how that plays out. If that's kind of the norm, like you said, how it plays back and forth, this Prowess deck might be a real problem. And I don't know exactly what our top 8 is going to look like. We still do have one more round. Again, this is the penultimate round. We have round number 8 coming up very shortly. But this speaks to a lot of Prowess potentially being in the top 8. So with that out of the way, I believe we're getting close to the end of the round. So we're going to go ahead and take a very quick break. And then we're going to bring you the 8th and final round of Swiss here at our Modern 10K Showdown in Chicagoland. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back with more Modern action very shortly.